You have likely noticed the sensation without having a name for it. It is that peculiar, heavy fog that settles behind your eyes after a morning spent doing almost nothing of substance. You have not climbed a mountain. You have not solved a complex proof. You have simply existed within the digital stream, answering a few messages, checking a notification, and glancing at a headline. You feel as though you have worked a full day, yet the page in front of you remains stubbornly blank. This is not simple fatigue. It is the steady, invisible accumulation of the attention residue tax. In the late 90s, we were told that the human brain was a marvel of parallel processing. We were encouraged to multitask, to keep a dozen plates spinning at once. But the architecture of our biology tells a different story. Your brain does not actually multitask. The context switches. It is less like a supercomputer and more like a massive, ancient stage where the lighting rig takes several minutes to reset every time the scene changes. When you glance at your phone for 3 seconds while working on a report, your primary focus does not simply pause and resume. A ghost of your attention stays behind on that screen. It clings to the half-read email or the social media comment like a viscous sediment. This is the residue. It is the cognitive cost of leaving a task before it is truly finished. Research suggests it can take up to 20 minutes for your brain to fully migrate its resources from one problem to another. But in the modern world, we rarely give ourselves 20 minutes. We flip the switch every 90 seconds. We are living in a state of perpetual transition, never quite arriving at the next thought before we are pulled back to the last one. We are paying a tax on our cortical bandwidth that we never agreed to, and the currency is our ability to think deeply. Consider the microtask. We treat them as if they are free. Sending a quick text feels like a zero-calorie snack for the mind. We think we can squeeze these moments into the gaps of our lives without consequence. But there are no gaps. There is only a finite amount of neural energy available to you every day. Every time you switch focus, your brain must fire up the executive control network. It must suppress the rules of the previous task and load the rules of the new one. This process burns glucose, creates metabolic waste. By the time you return to the work that actually matters, your brain is already operating on a deficit. You are trying to run a marathon on a track covered in flypaper. There is a subtle, unsettling reality to how this changes the quality of our consciousness. We are losing the capacity for linear thought. When your bandwidth is constantly drained by these microtransactions, your brain adapts to the shallowness. It becomes uncomfortable with the silence required for deep focus. It begins to crave the very interruptions that are draining it, seeking out the dopamine hit of a new notification to mask the exhaustion caused by the previous one. It is a feedback loop that rewards us for being fragmented. We are training our neurons to be distracted. You might believe you are the exception. You might feel that you are efficient, that you can juggle these threads with ease. But observe yourself the next time you try to read a difficult book or engage in a long conversation. Notice how quickly the urge to check, to switch, or to graze emerges. That itch is the feeling of a brain that has forgotten how to use its full bandwidth. We are becoming high-frequency, low-fidelity processors. We are processing more data than any generation in history, yet we are understanding less of it. We are mistaking the speed of our switching for the depth of our intelligence. Think about the physical space you occupy right now. Your brain is trying to map this room, maintain your posture, and process the cadence of these words. Now imagine a thin, invisible thread stretching from your mind back to every unfinished task sitting on your desk. A thread to the message you haven't replied to. A thread to the browser tab you left open. A thread to the news story you only partially read. Your consciousness is being pulled in 1,000 directions by these tiny, unresolved loops. Each one is a leak in the tank. Each one is a portion of your bandwidth that is no longer yours to use. The realization that begins to surface is that we are not just losing time. We are losing the version of ourselves that is capable of genius. The most profound human insights do not happen in the gaps between notifications. They happen in the long, quiet stretches of sustained concentration where the brain can finally recruit its most distant and creative networks. By allowing microtasks to dominate our day, we are effectively lobotomizing our own potential. We are choosing a life of frantic surface skimming over the quiet power of the depths. We tell ourselves we are staying connected, but we are actually becoming disconnected from our own cognitive center. We have built an entire civilization around the interruption, and we are now discovering the biological bill. We are living in a state of high alert passivity. We respond, we react, we pivot, but we rarely initiate. The tax is being collected every second you spend looking at a screen that is looking back at you. It is a slow, quiet depletion of the self. If you were to look at a scan of your brain during a day of heavy microtasking, you would see a scattered, flickering map of activation. It is a brain in distress, trying to be everywhere at once and succeeding at being nowhere. This is the new baseline. We have forgotten what it feels like to have a clear, unburdened mind. We have forgotten the feeling of a full tank of cortical bandwidth, focused entirely on a single beautiful idea. As you sit here now, you might feel a slight pressure to move on to the next thing. You might already be thinking about what you will do as soon as this ends. You can feel the residue of your day pulling at the edges of your mind. It is a persistent, quiet hum of unfinished business. We are all walking around with a heavy layer of cognitive sediment, wondering why the world feels so gray and why our thoughts feel so thin. We are paying for our connectivity with our clarity. We are trading our focus for a feeling of being busy. And the most unsettling part is not that we are losing our bandwidth, but that we have reached a point where we no longer remember what it was for. We are experts at the switch, but we have lost the destination. How much of your own mind do you actually have access to right now? And what would you be capable of if you could finally bring the rest of it back?